Assalamu alaikum friends, I'm Dr.Mahdi from waddan software channel. Welcome back to our tutorials. This tutorial will be the first tutorial for the SQLite database course, and in this tutorial we'll create SQLite database inside the device. But before we start, I'd like to advise you to practice and don't forget to subscribe in the channel and activate the bell to receive notifications for new tutorials. First of all, we'll need to create a new class. This class will be responsible for database helper. So here on the package name, right click, new Java class, and I'll call it student data helper and press OK. And I'll give extends SQLite open helper, and this extension requires two methods, one for onCreate and one for upgrade. So I implement all of them, and also it requires constructor, so I'll create it. And here in the constructors window we have three options. You can select one of them because we only need to the context, so I'll choose the first one. Okay, and now we will design the database itself. So I write private static final string database name equals, for example, student.db, and inside this database I'll create one table for student data, for example table name, and here is student info, for example. Okay, and inside this table we need 6 columns, one for ID and for name, for grade and for and age, and one for image. So we can write again private static final string, for example column ID, I'll call it ID, and the same way here in the constructor we need only the context, so I'll delete all this stuff, we don't need them. And for the name we write the database name, and for factory null, and for version, for example here version 1. Okay, for testing purpose I'll copy this and I'll put it here, equals this dot get writable database, and here in the onCreate I'll create the table itself, so we can write db.execute SQL, write create table space plus table name plus, and now I'll give the specifications for each field in the columns. So for ID it will be ID as integer, primary key, and auto increment. Okay, this means that the ID is integer and has a unique number, primary key, and increases itself by 1. For name it will be text, and for grade text, and for phone text, and for age text, and finally for image will be blog. Okay, in the onUpgrade method we'll check if the table exists or not, so we write db.execute SQL drop table if exists plus table name only. Okay, now we finished the first part for creating the database in student database helper. Now we'll go to main activity, and here we will initiate the class student database helper. So write student database helper student db, and In the onCreate, student DB equals new student database helper, and the context is this. Okay. Now when we test the application, it will create a new database called student database under the application's package name. So we'll test it. Now the application is opened and it is empty, but inside the device it created database. For example, here if we check the device file explorer, and if we look for the package name, and when we open it, we'll find that database folder created, and inside this folder we will find the database is created. When we save it to the PC, for example here in the desktop Java test, okay, and if we open the database browser and open the database, browse data, we'll find that a student info table has created, and inside this table we have ID, name, grade, phone, age, and image. So we finished the first tutorial. We created already the database, and we can move to the next tutorial. But don't forget to practice for this tutorial, and don't forget to subscribe in the channel and activate the bell to receive notifications for the new tutorials. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.